Good afternoon, everyone. The town of Hinton respectfully acknowledges that it is located on the First Peoples traditional lands. We recognize this traditional territory to show respect and understanding to those who walked this land since time immemorial. Today, we uphold our ongoing responsibility to work together in the spirit of the intent of the treaties with all the First Peoples and nations that call this place home. The town of Hinton expresses gratitude for the opportunity to build a better community in these sacred lands for generations to come. And I'd like to also add to that is the National Day of Action for the Missing and Murdered Indigenous Women and Girls. And thank you to the Friendship Center. I know there's a walk going on from 4 until 6 today. So today makes this day a little bit more special in the continued efforts to bring action and understanding to something extremely tragic. So we appreciate all the efforts that are being done here in our community of Hinton. And with that, I'd like to call this meeting to order at 4:01. Council, any additions or deletions to today's agenda? Seeing none, administration.
Sir, administration would only wish to clarify item 6.1 in the public hearing. It should simply read Intermunicipal Development Plan Bylaw 1133-1. It is, of course, not for first reading. It is the public hearing today.
Thank you. Then with that, I'd accept a motion to adopt as amended. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt the agenda for the regular meeting of council for October 4th, 2022 as amended.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate or questions? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? That's passed unanimously. That brings us to our council minutes for adoption. Council, any questions? If not, I'll entertain a motion. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that we adopt special council meeting of September 26, 2022, and the committee of the whole meeting for September 27, 2022.
Councillor Hawes. Once again, Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate? Questions? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? That is also passed unanimously. That'll bring us to our citizens minute with council. This is an opportunity to share your thoughts, concerns, positive, negative. You have 1 minute, and please state your name if you'd like to come forward.
Hello, my name is Morgan Roberts. I am the volunteer president of the Hinton Friendship Center. I'd like to thank you for allowing me to have a few words with you today. As we speak, hundreds of people from Hinton have started the annual Mmiwg walk from the Hinton Friendship Center. Dozens of red dresses are hung along the trail representing sisters in spirit vigil. Today is a day that honors and commemorates the lives and legacies of both the victims and survivors that have been impacted by ongoing violence against Indigenous women, girls, and the 2 SLGBTQIA. October 4th is a day of action for Mmiwg, missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Indigenous women historically and disproportionately experience violent crimes rooted in sexism and racism. Rates of violence against Indigenous women are much higher than that of non-Indigenous women in Canada, even when all other differentiating factors are accounted for. I'll share a few facts from the Native Women's Association of Canada. Alberta has the second highest number of Indigenous female homicides. Almost half of all the cases occurred in underserved communities. In Alberta, nearly 40% of cases involve strangers or acquaintances, not family. The rate of murder of Indigenous women was almost 6 times higher than the non-Indigenous women as of 2014. Only 53% of murder cases in the Native Women's Association database have ever been solved. 6 out of 10 cases of violent crime against Indigenous people are estimated to go unreported and never told. The federal government released the National Inquiry in 2019 in response to the disproportionate rates of violence against missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. The final report by the National Inquiry included 231 calls to justice to end the violence against Indigenous women, girls, and the two LGBTQIA people. These calls to justice are aimed at the provincial and federal Canadian governments and all institutions and industries, as well as individual Canadians. The 231 calls to justice include government obligations to human rights, culture, health, wellness, justice, security, media and social influence, police, law societies, educators, and corrections. These calls to justice legally require action in line with domestic and international human rights laws. They are ways to transform the systemic and societal values that work to maintain colonial violence within Canada. We must all work to implement these calls to justice in a meaningful way. It has been over 5 years since the National Inquiry was released, and little has been done and little has changed. Today, I want to read you 9 of the 231 calls to justice. 8 of these are specifically for individuals, and the last is for you, our town council. 1. Speak up when you see or hear the violence against Indigenous women, girls, and 2 LGBTQIA people. 2. Decolonize your knowledge and the institutions around you. 3. Read the final report by the National Inquiry on Mmiwg. 4. Dig deeper into the subject and seek additional resources on the Mmiwg to become a stronger ally. 5. Speak up when you see racism, sexism, homophobia, and transphobia. 6. Respect, protect, and promote the safety of women, girls, and 2 LGBTQIA people. 7. Hold space for your relationships and foster them on the basis of respect. 8. Hold all levels of governments and the state ministries accountable. The next call to action item is number 57. For our local government leaders, it is perhaps the most important. Call number 57 states, we call upon federal, provincial, territorial, and municipal governments to provide education to public servants on the history of Aboriginal peoples, including the history and legacy of residential schools, the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples, treaties and Aboriginal rights, Indigenous law, and Aboriginal Crown relations. This will require skill-based training in intercultural competency, conflict resolution, human rights, and anti-racism. Each person has a role to play in order to combat violence against Indigenous women, girls, and 2 LGBTQIA people. When we implement these calls to justice into our lives, work, and communities, we show that our solidarity extends past wearing an orange shirt. Please reflect on Mmiwg as real people that are acting against our violence. On behalf of the Hinton Friendship Center, I urge you, the Hinton Town Council, to review and prioritize your plans to make Hinton a leader in working towards action item 57. Thank you. Hi.
Thank you, Ms. Roberts, for bringing this forward, especially focusing on what we can contribute here in our community, which is the call to action number 57. So we appreciate the efforts that the Friendship Center and everyone involved in our community, and we appreciate the, I think, the added awareness that's still needed in order to really push this forward. So thank you for doing this today. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
And with that, seeing no one else in the room, for a minute with council, we will move on to our delegations and presentations for this evening or this afternoon, and we only have one. Number 5.1, Rural Renewal Stream Presentation by Nicole Lorraine. Ms. Lorraine, the floor is yours.
Perfect. Thank you so much for having me. Let me see if we can make the share screen work, and we'll take it from there. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So I know I only have 15 minutes, so I'm going to go as quick as I can. And hopefully we have a few minutes for questions at the end, but if people want to interrupt as we go along, please feel free to do that. So I'm stepping in for Lucy Gexy today, who's away on vacation. This is normally her region. So just so you're aware that we do have workforce consultants across the whole province, and yours is Lucy. So the rural renewal stream. So this is quickly what we're going to go through today. So the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, there are actually 7 streams underneath that program, but today we're going to focus on the rural renewal stream. So the objective of that program is to empower the rural communities to attract newcomers to live, work, and settle in your communities, to fill the labor gaps and the skill shortages, to increase stability of the community and stimulate the economy, as well as increase immigrant attraction and retention in the rural communities. So rural for us is defined as anything under 100,000, as well as no communities that are within the Edmonton or Calgary municipal census area are eligible, even if they are under 100,000, just so you're aware. So I guess I already covered that, covered the skill shortage. So for nationals who are in Canada legally or outside of Canada, so you can do both ways. People can hire people who are already here, who are temporary foreign workers, who wish to relocate to your community, or who already live in a community that's designated or underneath the Rural Renewal Program. That's your options. So this sort of gives you the stream process chart. So a community would decide to apply for designation, and you do that through the portal online. And then once you're designated as a community, the employers that are wanting to use the program within your community could then start to attract and recruit newcomers in whatever way they see fit, whether that's using an international recruiter or using the Canada Job Bank, which is free for them to use, Indeed, whichever they choose. The candidates then apply on the jobs that they find in the communities. And I can tell you that foreign nationals have already caught on to the different programs that are available in Canada. And they are looking for opportunities that say that in the job ads, that we're a designated community under the rural renewal stream, etc. So they are looking for that for sure. So then once those people apply, the employer is responsible to do all their screening, the interviews, deciding who they want to hire. And then they would come with a bit of a summary of those candidates to what we call the community partnership. So the community partnership would be a representative from the town as the lead and your newcomer support services. It might include a representative from the school board who could speak to, this is a family of 8 that's coming. Do we have room in our school? That sort of stuff. Someone would potentially be there to speak to housing, availability of housing, what's rental look like, that sort of stuff. And then that community partnership would be the ones who would endorse the candidates. So select and endorse the newcomers. And then the applicant would be the one who would have to then, once the community says, yeah, we're okay with this candidate, that candidate would be given a letter from the town and on behalf of the community partnership to say, we endorse your application. They then go into the Alberta Advantage Immigration Portal, upload their information in there, a little bit of tombstone information that we can then use to assess their eligibility, as well as the letter that the community partnership would have given them. And then from there, we can issue them what we call a 204C letter, which basically gives them the letter that they need to get their work permit from the federal government. Once that happens, then the candidate can come to the community, and then that's where it goes back to that community partnership again, where you're welcoming and integrating the newcomers. Once they've arrived, then that's where we automatically nominate, we being the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, automatically nominates them for permanent residency. The permanent residency process is still controlled by the federal government. And so we have no control over the timelines for that. So when we nominate someone, or currently as a province, because we do have other nomination streams, it still takes 2 to 3 years for them to get that permanent residency, but at least they can be here with their family, getting integrated in the community. And that's your opportunity as a community to shine in order to be able to retain those newcomers when they do get their permanent residency, because of course, once they have that, then they have that flexibility to move if they choose to. So candidates are still required to meet the minimum qualifications for the occupation. The minimum, absolute minimum requirement is that they have an equivalent of a high school diploma. So all of that stuff has to be put into the portal when they go and enter their data. So that's something that employers will want to look for. Did they graduate high school? Do they have the requirement you're looking for, whether you're bringing in a heavy duty mechanic, etc. So all of that stuff would have to be done. And then we would sort of assess the requirements for their entry into Canada. So the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program, the criteria. So again, it has to be a confirmed permanent full-time non-seasonal job offer. It has to be 12 months of full-time. And they have to have relevant work experience within the last 18 months, a Canadian high school graduation or equivalent, the Canadian language benchmark of 4 or 5, depending on which national occupation code you're bringing them in under. So if you're bringing them into the low skill, then they need a 5. If you're bringing them into a semi-skilled or high skilled and not code, then it would be a 5. And then, as I said before, the endorsement letter that the candidate gets from the community, and then settlement funds. And there is a chart right now on the website that shows the settlement funds that they are required to have. What we are working on right now is with the Alberta Advantage Immigration Program to see if the employer can basically endorse them and provide those settlement funds versus the applicant having to show that they have that amount of money in their bank account. So we are working on that currently. So it can't be used, as I said, to recruit seasonal and part-time workers or to assist any person or business involved in producing, distributing, or selling pornography or sexually explicit products or services of any type of activity that by association would bring the government of Alberta into disrepute, obviously. Community designation, again, I talked a little bit about this. The community has to have a population of less than 100,000, and the communities within the Calgary and Edmonton CMA are excluded. Communities can partner together that are within the same economic region. So far, we haven't seen any applications that have come in that way. But, you know, I mean, whatever county you fall in, if you guys wanted to do it together or whatever that looks like for you, we recommend that it be within about 100-kilometer radius, just because then it's a little less work for your newcomer support services, that sort of stuff, because otherwise it could entail a lot of travel. So that is an option. Interested employers with a full-time non-seasonal job offer, and you can work with multiple employers. There's no limitation on that. There's no limitation on the number of endorsements you can provide. It's whatever your community needs and however you guys decide to run the program. So some communities, for example, have gone to an application process. So they're having the employers apply to the town or as the lead for the community partnership to say, you know, this is why we want to use it. This is what we've already done to try and recruit and it's not working. A couple of reasons why they're, you know, some are considering doing that, because some employers may have a reputation of not being great employers. It just gives a community a little more flexibility around doing that. But you guys decide, the community partnership decides what that looks like and how you want to work with your community. An economic development organization that will be overseeing the project in collaboration with the community. So what that means is if you don't have your own economic development plan in Hinton, you could work with your regional economic development authority because they generally do have that economic development plan for the region. So you would just have to work with them on that. Again, if you were choosing to go more than one community, you would have to have letters from each of the participating communities saying that from their council saying that yes, they're on board with that. And then you have to have an immigrant serving provider needed in your community or collaborating with your community. So if you don't have newcomer settlement support services in Hinton, whatever's closest to you as far as newcomer support services, then you would just work with them to see if they're capable, they have the capacity to support you as well. And then, of course, they would have to submit that letter, a letter to you to say that they're on board and that they will support you. So first steps with the community, I walked through this pretty thoroughly when we were going through the diagram, but I will touch on it again. So again, you're creating that partnership with the municipality, and we won't tell you who needs to be on it. This gives you a little bit of an idea of who can be on it. You have to lead it. The town has to lead it because you're the one who's becoming designated. But then you could choose to have on it who you want. Then you would complete and submit that community designation application form to this email address, but all the forms are online. Then, like I said, the employers do the recruitment, they do the screening, the application, the interviews, they do all of that piece. And then they bring those applicants to the table on paper, obviously, for you to endorse. You give them the endorsement letter. The newcomer gets, what they need once they put their information into the portal, and then you welcome and integrate those newcomers and work towards retaining them. Community readiness. How do you decide if you're ready as a community to do this? Are there employment skills gaps in the community? Do your employers have full-time permanent jobs available that cannot be filled locally and provincially? Does the community support immigration? Is it a welcoming community? Can the community accommodate newcomers with the necessary services and infrastructure like rental availability? So those are all questions you have to ask yourselves as a community to decide if you're ready. So is it a good fit for you? If yes, then you can discuss the community designation criteria with a workforce consultant. So that's me or Lucy when she gets back. If you have questions starting next week, because that's when she will be back. All of the information you could need and then some you can find at the Rural Renewal website. So I invite you to take a look at that and have a peruse through that to see what the different expectations are. And then develop your plans to manage the project, how the employers are going to attract and recruit. I know one community actually has decided all the recruitment is going to be done through one website that the city has created themselves. And that's where all the job postings will go. And that's where anybody who's wanting to move to that community, that's where they will go to look for those opportunities under the Rural Renewal stream. So, okay, that was really fast, but I open it up to questions. If you guys have any questions, you're welcome to ask them at this time, and I'll do my best to answer them.
Thanks so much, Ms. Lorraine, for the breakdown and going through this program that I believe will bring a lot of benefits to our community. So with that, I have Councillor Magoon in queue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nicole, I've got a question. Are there any case studies that you're aware of where there are communities who have been successful looking for professional level gaps in their areas? I think about things like doctors and educators, because these are areas where I've seen, folks immigrate and we have them in town who were professional physicians in their country of origin. But of course, there's complications getting certified, coming over to Canada and those sorts of things. Do you have any examples of communities who have?
We don't yet, because the program only launched in February, and the first communities were actually designated just this summer. So we had a batch that were designated in July, and then another batch that were designated at the beginning of September. So we're just starting to see those first communities getting candidates to put information into the portal. So we don't have that data yet. I can tell you that I've worked closely with RPAP across the province and Alberta Health Services, who are looking to recruit nurses, healthcare aides, and all the other gamut of health professionals to the small rural community. So they're waiting anxiously to see how that will work. But we've encouraged them certainly to work with the professional bodies that where the designation comes from, so the Alberta Nurses Association, et cetera, to see what that could look like. And, do they have reciprocal agreements with certain countries where it would be easier for them to recruit from, et cetera. And then there are some specific criteria for doctors, and I'll actually send that in through email to you guys so that you have the information that is very specific to medical doctors, because there is some specifications there, but anybody can use the program. So that includes Alberta Health Services, that includes even the town office. If you guys are recruiting, anybody can use it. So there are no conditions there. I can tell you that so far, what I've seen from the communities in my area that are designated, the things that they've looked to bring in are tradespeople, and then the low-skilled people. The trades they sort of know already. Employers are pretty intuitive and knowing where is it easiest for us to go recruit, where they can get here and how.
We're losing you a little bit, Ms. Lorraine.
Thank you. Administration. Oh,
Sir, we'll see if we can get Miss Lorraine back with us. A reminder that this item does come back as action item 7.5 and a chance to discuss further on tonight's agenda.
with that, we'll take a 3-minute recess if Miss Lorraine.
Yeah, this is the second time I get booted out now. It keeps telling me that our connection is unstable. So hopefully I'll be able to answer your questions before I get booted out again.
Okay. Perfect. Councillor Magoon, any follow-up on?
No, just thanks for that answer. That was quite informative. Thank you.
Thank you,
worries.
Councillor Magoon. I have Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just have a couple of questions, and maybe I missed it, or maybe I just need some clarity on it. When it says attract and recruit newcomers to move to and settle in the community, I heard you say that the newcomers are already looking into the system and that already exists and things, and who's on board with this. But is that the responsibility of the town to do that attraction and recruitment? It's not. Okay.
No, that falls on the employer.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Oh, it's
That's
on the
all up to
employer.
them.
Okay, all right. I guess if you don't mind, Mr. Mayor, I guess the other question I have.
No, Forrest. Oh, don't you say mermaids? But I did a movie about your thing too. That's not all. I want you to meet my son. 6 hours in makeup.
I'm getting some feedback from someone else who's come off of mute.
Okay,
I don't know what's happening
I think
here.
it's gone now. So,
Okay.
So my other question is, so we were just attended the Alberta Municipalities conference, and there was some questions in regards to, and I guess it's one, you mentioned provincial licensing. And is there information out there that people know that are doing that? The other issue that I've heard at the conference in regards is the driver's license. It takes so long to get coming from another country and getting their driver's license here in Canada. So do you see any? I mean, I know they've done some adjustings with graduated designated licensing and stuff here in Alberta, but do you know anything that is happening to try and loosen up the red tape on that in the amount of time? Because I'm assuming some of these jobs will require that.
Mhm. Actually, we worked with, I actually had this question a couple of weeks ago, and we worked with Alberta Transportation, and what they're recommending and what we're telling employers is before you bring them here, have them go get their international driver's license.
Okay.
And then once they get here, that allows them to drive. And then when they're ready to, the employer's ready for them to get their international driver's license assessed by Alberta, they've got 90 days to do that. When they relinquish their driver's license, it's about a 10-day process for them to be reviewed if they and it's faster if they have that international driver's license issued from their country before they come. So it's not too bad. It's only 10 days.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, any further questions? You have to go in the queue. No, thank you. Councillor Taylor.
Used to pressing a button. What would success for this program look like in quantitative terms?
I don't have any data to share with you yet because it's, like I said earlier, it's still too new. We are just seeing the first few applications being put into the portal from the communities that were designated in July. So Tabor and Brooks have some applications in the queue. And so now we're just sort of all waiting with bated breath now to see how long is that going to take and what's that going to look like as far as timelines. So it's still pretty early on. I'm hoping that within the next couple of months, we'll have some hard data to be able to share with the communities who haven't yet applied and who are thinking about applying, so that then it gives your employers a little bit of an idea of what are they looking at? What are they looking at for timelines before they actually have someone here to do the job?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, anything further for Ms. Lorraine before we move on? Seeing none, again, Ms. Lorraine, thanks so much for going through this program, kind of answering our questions and making it a bit clear on what this may do for our community and what the processes are. So again, we appreciate your time and we look forward to a successful application of this program here in our community.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And again, if there's questions that come up after, they can certainly be emailed to myself or to Lucy.
Perfect. Thanks again.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you. That will bring us to our public hearing portion of tonight's meeting. We have 6.1 Intermunicipal Development Plan Bylaw 1133-1. And with that, I will begin the public hearing process. The following public hearing is held pursuant to Section 692 of the Municipal Government Act, being Charter M26 RSA 2000 and amendments thereto. The following rules of conduct will be followed during the public hearing. Presentation should be brief and to the point. The order of presentation shall be: first, entry of written submissions, those supporting the bylaw, those opposing the bylaw, and any other person deemed to be affected by the bylaw. Council may ask questions of the speakers after each presentation for clarification purposes. There will be no debating the bylaw. However, questions to the councillors or other parties will be accepted through the chair. Now, with that, I hereby declare the public hearing relating to the bylaw open. Administration.
Purpose of this proposed 33-1 is to amend the joint intermunicipal development plan IDP between the town of Hinton and Yellowhead County to bring it into alignment with Yellowhead County's newly adopted land use bylaw. As shown in attachment 1 with appendix A and B, first reading was given to bylaw number 1133-1 on September 6, 2022. Notice of this public hearing was advertised consecutively in the Hinton Voice newspaper on September 15th and 22nd, 2022, as well as advertised on the Town of Hinton website, Civic Send, and Facebook.
Thank you, Ms. Davy Campbell. Are there any late written submissions relating to bylaw 1133-1? Seeing none. Is there anyone present who wishes to speak in favor of bylaw 1133-1? Seeing none. I bring the present who wishes to speak in opposition to bylaw 1133-1. Seeing none, is there anyone present who is deemed to be affected by bylaw 1133-1 and wishes to speak? Also seeing none, do the councillors have any further questions? Councillor Taylor.
With that. Administration, one of the major changes seems to be changing designations from a forestry district to a natural district. What's the implications of that?
Administration.
It's actually in the actual document that's provided. In the red line explains that is what they're rezoning under the land use bylaw. That's what they're rezoning the district to. And so they're actually ensure that the IDP is the land use bylaw. So that is the zoning that they're now going to be put into that district.
Yeah, I understand that.
That's that answer your question?
No. What's the implication of that change?
In what way?
In a land use point of view, like does that imply different uses as opposed to forestry versus land use, or is it just like a name change?
It's a name change in this.
So it doesn't have a practical implication as far as land uses?
No, this was just a name change for them. Yeah,
Okay,
updating their LUD to be more, I guess, relative to what's on, like, in the district already.
thanks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, my apologies, just. Seeing no other councillors in queue, do the councillors require further information? Seeing none, if not, I hereby declare the public hearing relating to bylaw 1133-1 is closed and will now accept a motion to adjourn. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to make the motion to adjourn this public hearing.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Thank you very much, administration and council. That will bring us now to our action items for this evening. We have many of them. The first one, 7.1, Intermunicipal Development Plan Amendment Bylaw 1133-1. ICO Hanlon.
Thank you, Mayor. Through you to all of council, on page 29 of today's agenda package, we are now following up on the closed public hearing, and I will turn this over to our planner, Ms. Walker, who will take us through the Intermunicipal Development Plan amendments proposed in bylaw 1133-1. The recommended actions sought by administration, the first being that council give IDP bylaw 1133-1 second reading. And if council wishes, that council give IDP bylaw number 1133-1 third reading. And with that, Ms. Walker and the administration are available to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, administration. Councilor Mmiwg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the council give intermunicipal development plan bylaw number 1133-1 second reading.
Thank you, Councilor Mmiwg. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any questions, debates, comments? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Council, any appetite for third reading this evening? Councilor Mmiwg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the council give intermunicipal development plan bylaw number 1133-1 third reading.
Again, thank you, Councilor Mmiwg. Council, we have third reading on the floor. I have Councilor Taylor in queue. Administration, just to confirm, would this be the final reading?
Thanks.
Thank you, administration and Councilor Taylor. Council, again, we have a motion on the floor. Any further debate or questions? Seeing none, I'll call to question that council give intermunicipal development plan bylaw 1133-1 third reading. Council, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Council, anything further for action item 7.1 Seeing none, thank you, administration and council. That brings us to 7.2 road closure bylaw first reading. This is for the Fountain Tire area, ICO Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. Through you to all of council on page 64 of today's agenda package. This is a road closure bylaw, simply seeking first reading here today and the possibility of scheduling a public hearing. Correctly noted, this is in relation to a land swap in and around the Fountain Tire area. And Ms. Petka is here and can answer any questions that council may have at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, administration. Council, any questions? If not, any appetite for direction, Councilor Ross? Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I'd like to move that council give first reading for road closure bylaw 1175 as presented, and further request the administration set a public hearing date for road closure bylaw number 1175 for November 1st, 2022. If I can speak to it. Appreciate this coming forward. We've had some discussion in this area in the past. This is an opportunity now, to get it out into the public and get any feedback through that public hearing process. So quicker we get it out there, the better. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate questions? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Council, anything else for 7.2 this evening? This afternoon still. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My question is to administration. For those people in the community who don't buy the newspaper, don't go on Facebook, don't, basically are hermits, how do you get their, how are you able to tell them about this? Able to write a letter, come here and speak.
Administration.
Sir, through you to Councillor Race, to all of council, it's a very good question. I'm not entirely sure how we would do that. We do, and I appreciate you've indicated that if they're not connected with our social media, if they're not reading the paper, I will actually just, I'm going to actually pass this over to Ms. Walker because I'm not sure what other additional measures we may take in terms of possibly posting the property or anything else that the town of Hinton may do. So I will ask Ms. Walker to speak to this.
Absolutely. Thank you. One of the things that we have implemented, I think it was Councillor Race that brought it up. When we do provide the notice in the paper for the public hearing, we now do create a link so that when someone's reading it, they can click on the link, or if they're on the website, they can click on the link to see the bylaw. We do not post at the site. It is not a panel of the annual. We can do either and advertise or post. We also do a circulation typically for the public hearing for the adjacent neighbors, so they will get something in the mail that are in the vicinity of the property that we're subdividing or doing any rezoning with. So those adjacent affected neighbors would get notification of the public hearing notice.
May I? Sorry, Lorraine, I can't hear you 100%. So people who are specifically impacted by this, let's say the people at Happy Creek Apartments just across the street, should some of them think that they will be specifically impacted, how do you get this message to them that this public hearing is going to be held? They live right across the street.
We would be sending it to, typically we go across the street and then a few beside and behind. So we kind of do a circular kind of boundary for the circulation. So we would be sending to the landowner, and typically we will Happy Creek, probably we rely on the landowner to let his tenants know. But if it's a place where we can send to the residents via their civic address, we can do that as well, and the registered landowner. So we can send it to both, so that not only does the owner get it because they may live in Edmonton, but then the actual resident who lives there will get also the notice.
Okay, good, super. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Council, anything further for 7.2? Seeing None, thank you. Again, administration and council. That'll bring us to 7.3 land use bylaw amendments, 1088-18. ICO Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. Through you to all of council on page 71 of this afternoon's agenda package. And we are following on action item 7.2. This is now the land use bylaw amendment, and you will see here looking for a redistricting, and the lands now as part of the land swap. You would see a redistricting application. Actually, on page 74, you see the map associated with that. And administration is seeking a recommendation for just first reading today, with the direction to schedule a public hearing for November 1st, 2022 at 4 p.m. And so with that, Ms. Walker is with us as well for any questions. Otherwise, council may wish to consider the recommended action. Thank you.
Thank you, ICO Hanlon. In queue, I have Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the council give the land use bylaw number 1088-18 first reading, and that council schedule a public hearing on November 1st, 2022 at 4 p.m. in the council chambers to hear public comments on bylaw number 1088-18.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, we have a motion on the floor to give first reading and to bring forward a public hearing. Any comments, questions, debate? Seeing none, I'll call to question. All those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Council, anything else for 7.3? Seeing no one, again, thank you, administration and council. Moving on to 7.4, business license information, short-term rentals, ICO Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. I am on page 75 of council's agenda package, and this is the business license information. This is a request of council on the recent short-term rental bylaw approvals, specifically related to the business license information. There is options available, and you do have a recommended action here. Ms. Walker again is with us and able to speak to this matter. I will possibly, could be some discussion, I imagine, here, so I will turn this over to you, sir, and Ms. Walker is available with any questions.
Thank you, ICO Hanlon. Council, any debate questions? Councillor Taylor.
Just a minor question. So, actually, nothing said on it. This shows up on our website. It'll show up under the heading of short-term rentals, so people will know that this information is related to that.
Administration.
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move the council direct administration to implement the business license information, short-term rentals, option 1 as presented. If I may speak to it. We had some detail or some conversation with our last community of the whole, which great to have it back so quickly. This is it's really fantastic. Thank you, administration. But just to reiterate that one of the purposes of having the short-term rental bylaw is to be able to track how many short-term rentals we have in our communities, and are we getting more than we need, stuff like that. So without this, I think that it impedes on one of the purposes of having the bylaw in the first place. So being able to list what is available in our community for short-term rentals and the areas they're in, and even addresses, I'm in favor of. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, we have a motion on the floor. I'll be speaking in favor of this, and similar to Councillor Haas, happy to see that this was one of the funding elements that we wanted to have for transparency, and we appreciate that administration got this quickly and that great options. And to me, this is going to play a vital role in our community to really show where these are located, and we appreciate the work that's been done, and I look forward to supporting this. Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'll be looking forward to supporting the motion on the floor. I know this is part of a conversation I've had with numerous people. Very frank question I've received is, where can I go to find out if, a neighboring property is safely and appropriately engaging in this sort of activity? This is how our community can track that. And it's just an element of transparency. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any further debate or questions? Seeing None. I'll call to question the council. Oh, my apologies. 75, Marcel. No, there we go. Where are we? Yeah, listen. Oh, okay, there we go. That council direct administration to implement business license information, short-term rentals, option 1 as presented. Council, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Councillor Haas.
Yeah, still on this matter, I guess I just have a question because it was brought up, that you have that alternative to not list your business on the website. And I guess, like I said, I think a lot of people look at that website to see what kind of businesses we have in our community so that it may draw them to our community. So I guess I'm curious, we've done this with short-term rentals. Is it possible to do that with other businesses as well, that they aren't given that option? Because I mean, I just think it's in their favor, but also the community's favor as well. Because if I have a family coming to the community, they may look at at other towns' websites and see the businesses that are there. We may have them, but they may not be aware of them. So I guess I'm curious, administration, is that a path that potentially we could look down, being as how we've looked into FOIP with this matter?
Administration.
Most certainly. Yeah, right now, the application that is set up does provide that question. A lot of times people do want to have that extra type of advertisement for their business, but then sometimes people don't for whatever reason, or they may have a numbered company, so it doesn't really describe what the business is. However, certainly I think that we can work around that because it's similar to the same thing, that it's a business type information. It's not giving away any information that's that's too private as far as emails, phone numbers, and that sort of thing. So I don't see that issue as well. So I think just administratively, internally, we would look at that application form and then adjust it. And then again, provide that FOIP disclaimer to be able to let people know that, yes, we're taking this information back. And then also to go to at the applicant.
So if they follow up, then that change though, however, is different than our typical practice. So it would need, I'm guessing, a motion of council to go that direction if council chooses to. I'm not saying we do, but would it need that? Because it did need it for this. So I'm just curious if it needs it for if we want to change our practices.
Administration.
Oh, good question. I think that the reason we needed it for the other is because we weren't clear on the FOIP legislation. So I think that was more just delving into what we can and can't do as a municipality. So I think given that we've received that information, that in which case we can advertise that sort of thing, I think we're okay. I don't think we'd have to come to council. That'd be an administrative internal matter is what I would look at it as. But maybe Paul could speak to that.
I see O'Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. And thank you, Ms. Walker. I agree fully with Ms. Walker. We do have the FOIP direction on this matter. It's not exclusive to short-term rentals. And we would simply want to ensure we would treat all businesses the same way and provide that opportunity for them, make sure that they're notified of their rights regarding FOIP and the publication of the information, and could bring that forward. I do agree that it's good for business. I think it's good for residents as well to be able to access a website to determine whether or not their neighbor is in fact licensed to be doing whatever it may appear that they are doing, and it doesn't have to disclose any personal information under FOIP. So this is something that administratively we could proceed with.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, administration. Thank you, Councillor Haas. Council, anything further for 7.4? Seeing none, again, thank you, administration and council. That brings us to the rural renewal stream of Alberta Energy Immigration Program. I see O'Hanlon. Thank you, Mayor. I'm very excited. This goes better than the presentation from the Senate Committee. We are at item 7.5, and I'm going to just check. So page 78 of the agenda package. With that, certainly very happy to have Ms. Weber with us as well, the author of the report, and she's been working closely with the province on this.
The main thing moving forward is certainly administration's available to answer any questions of council at this time. Specifically, today, what we are looking for is on page 83 of your agenda package. You will see essentially a support letter that would need to be authored by the town of Hinton in order for us to proceed as part of the rural renewal stream. So with that, Ms. Weber and myself are available for any questions council may have.
Thank you, IC O'Hanlon. I have Councilor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, this is a question that I think all of us are aware of the answer to, but I think for anybody potentially watching. So under the financial implications, outside of the time invested by administration into putting the letter together, seeking that sort of support, there's no overall costs from our operating budget or capital costs as indicated in the report, correct?
Administration. Oh, it was on.
Thank you, through the chair to Councillor Magoon. You're correct. There's just an investment of staff resources to put the application together and then lead the initiative.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilor Magoon. Thank you, Administration. Councilor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council direct administration to submit an application for the rural renewal stream Alberta Advantage Immigration Program to determine a designated community, including an endorsement letter of support from council as presented. And I would like to just quickly speak on this. We'll never know how successful our community can be if we don't become part of the program. So it's an opportunity for us as a community and for the dear people who will come into our community. So I hope I get the support of council on this.
Thank you, Councilor Race. Council, we have a motion on the floor and I have Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be in support of this. I think this is, a trend we're seeing. We heard it in Alberta Municipalities Conference, the amount of issues we're having with the labor, having unavailability of labor in our community. So, I mean, this is an opportunity to bolster that. I do have one quick question, and I know that we talked about it, and I heard, Ms. Weber, you talked about how the community employers endorse this, but I'm just curious because when I asked the question to Ms. Lorraine, I think Ms. Lorraine, about the recruitment and all that falls on the employers, really. So are they fully aware of like the implications that if we have this program, because that's really what's going to make it successful, is they're able to go through that and because we're the leaders, but they have to recruit and get those people in our community. So they're fully aware of that.
And a lot of them have already been trying to recruit on their own and struggling with that process. So this would be in addition to that, and they're well aware of the fact that there would be more incentive to recruit because the other support systems are in place to assist them with that. But yes, they are aware that they will still be required to recruit on their own. Yes.
Okay. Thank you. So with that, like I said, this program's going to, live and breathe through that. So it's great to hear, and that, any way we can support them, I'm in favor of. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any further debate or questions? Seeing none, I'll call to question that council direct administration submit an application for the Rural Renewal Stream Alberta Advantage Immigration Program to become a designated community, including an endorsement letter of support from council as presented. Council, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Anything else for 7.5, council? Seeing none, again, thank you, administration. And moving on to 7.6, amending the Chris Johnstone field name. IC O'Hanlon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you to all of council, I'm on page 84 of your agenda package. This is a very special motion that coming before council. There is some history on this, of course, with Chris Johnson and the field name. I do understand that Mr. Johnson has historically been involved or was involved with minor football here in Hinton and very successful CFL career. A past motion of council did name the field as the Chris Johnson Field. And this is a bit of housekeeping being brought forward from community services. And just to clarify, and at the request of the Hinton Wolfpack minor football team, they had sought and requested that it be renamed the Chris Johnson Memorial Field. And out of respect and as a memorial to Mr. Johnson, we did kind of proceed with the signage going up. And in fairness, sir, I must take accountability for that. I did allow the memorial sign to stay up. So there was a home opener and we wanted this to align. So again, a bit of a housekeeping matter. I do apologize it was not done sooner. The motion is that council approve the request from the Hinton Wolfpack minor football team to amend the Chris Johnson field name to include memorial, and that accepts administration's update on the installation of the name sign on the field as information. It is consistent with the town does have a naming policy, and this is consistent with that policy. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ICO Hanlon. I have Councilor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council approves the request from the Hinton Wolfpack minor football team to amend the Chris Johnstone field name to include memorial, and accepts administration's update on the installation of the name the same and field as information. Thank you. Thank you, Councilor Magoon. Council, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll be in favor of this. I wanted to quickly, I think we've spoke about this in the past, how important this is for the Johnstone family and for Chris's impact. But I do want to take a quick moment and thank administration for putting together the signage prior to this with the words memorial and doing the housekeeping after. It's important to understand the etiquette of certain things, and the home opener was important for that to be there for the players and the people to have and to deal with the paperwork or the red tape later. And it was very appreciated by the community. So thank you for doing so. And with that, council, any further debate, comments, questions? Seeing none, I'll call to question that council approves the request from the Hinton Wolfpack minor football team to amend the Chris Johnstone field name to include memorial, and accepts administration's update on the installation of the name sign on the field as information. Council, all those in favor? That is passed unanimously. Council, anything else for 7.6? Seeing none again, thank you, administration and council. This brings us to 7.7, Lupin Way Playground Remediation Project, ICO Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. Through you to all of council. I'm on page 96 of today's agenda package. Another good news story. This is got some history that was shared with council a bit earlier this year, and up on Lupin Way in that newer subdivision that Qualico undertook within the last 10 years or so, I believe. One of the lots was originally developed on a temporary basis by Qualico as a playground for that area. And in anticipation of a further phase up the hill being completed and a park being constructed in that location. The market changed, circumstances changed with this particular developer, and they did not and have not proceeded with the further development up the hill, and currently have no plans to do so. This playground has been named and was provided by the developer, and is currently, quite frankly, remains owned by the developer. Some issues came to light from the adjacent property owners, somewhat due to the uncertainty, or just people were not entirely clear who owned and were responsible for the maintenance. Some of the maintenance concerns were identified by the town. Staff were in discussions with Qualico on this. Qualico has come back and has indicated a willingness, a desire to give this playground to the town of Hinton at no cost. They are undertaking and willing to complete some work on the playground itself to address some of the safety concerns and some of the things that we had. We are a little bit apart on what we would like. So you do have attached here, you do see the minimum development, landscaping, design, and servicing standards for the town of Hinton. And so the reason this is here before council today is we are seeking a we're looking to invest $48,000 to do a poured in place rubber surface on this playground to address safety. This is rather than pea gravel or sand, which is not consistent with our standards. And the poured in place, in fairness to the developer, is more expensive than they're willing to invest in at this time. A bit of background in terms of the finances on this. The town has a municipal reserve fund, which is intended for the purchase or development of recreational items for the town of Hinton. It has a current balance of $860,281. It is where we are recommending this could be funded by the town at a cost of $48,000. We do not know at this time if this would happen this fall or next spring, but we do wish to work in collaboration with Qualico on this. The recommended action, is that council approves partnering with Qualico communities to help remediate the playground located on Lupin Way to municipal standards with a contribution of $48,000 from the municipal reserve to partially fund a pour in place surfacing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, ICO Hanlon. Councilman Goon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to move that council approves partnering with Qualico communities to help remediate the playground located on Lupin Way to municipal standards with the contribution of $48,000 from the municipal reserve to partially fund a pour in place surfacing. And if I could speak to that, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to express my appreciation that this is before council. Now, this was an area that a number of people online were concerned about in terms of safety, and I think rightfully so. Obviously, it's an area that does get use. We do have a lot of young families in that area, not only from Qualico's area, but also from neighboring trailer park. So again, it's just an easy win, especially considering that the nearby trailer park really doesn't have much in the way of functioning playground equipment anymore. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Magoon. Council, we have a motion on the floor. I have Councilor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will be in favor of this. I guess my only question to administration is, it seems to me like this was something Qualico did for the residents, and then the market changed and kind of stepped away from it. And I guess there's evident agreement that Qualico came to the town and said that there's a playground. It is supposed to be temporary, but any agreement that we were to take care of it for one, or is this just something that they put there and then assumed someone would look after it? Because I guess my thoughts are, is there any negotiation whatsoever? Because I would like to see more than 18,000. I mean, they put it there and it's now falling on our hands. They're giving it to us, but I mean, it's now another asset in our community. It's another, one that we have to maintain. So was Qualico at all negotiable in that potentially?
Administration.
Sir, thank you. Through you to Councilor Hawes, and maybe perhaps just to give a bit more background on this matter. From a planning perspective, the intention in this community was in the next phase to see a community, a neighborhood park developed. And of course, that hasn't happened. I think the positive, I mentioned a good news story when I opened here today. The positive in my mind is that Qualico will give the town the lot. So if you will, the value of that lot, they're not asking for payment of it. It is actually a residential lot that if they were to pull the playground off, they could. Actually, part of this process, we're going to redistrict it to the proper districting. We're going to take it as part of the inventory of playgrounds for the town of Hinton. To your earlier question, it just kind of fell through the cracks over the years. Further, Qualico did purchase the playground structure and equipment, which has significant value as well. They're not asking for any compensation on that. And administration did just let me know. And it's just how quickly we can work these things. No, I wish it was that way, but the poured in place is actually happening tomorrow. And that's not because it's assumed that council's approving this. It's just Qualico and time of year and wanting to get this done. It is happening tomorrow.
Okay. With that clarification, I appreciate that, those costs are there in, it's not necessarily in dollars and cents, but that clarification. Yeah, I'll be in favor of this. This is a great, it needs to be fixed for the residents in that area. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Taylor.
So if it's happening tomorrow, why are you even bothering to ask us today? It's going to happen anyways.
Administration.
Sir, through you to Councillor Taylor, actually, I apologize. I just was handed a note that it's happening. So it was a matter of us then having to resolve who was to pay for this, if it was going to be Qualico, if it was going to be the town of Hinton. So I do apologize for that coming together so quickly. But it is reasonable. I appreciate that Qualico chose to proceed without clarification from council at this time, but I do apologize that it appears to paint you into a corner somewhat.
Councillor Taylor.
Well, my follow-up would be that $66,000 to fix up a playground like this seems like a lot of money. I see a lot of playgrounds around town that don't have hard surface, so we're gonna go around all the playgrounds in town and put a surface for $66,000.
Administration.
Directly to Taylor. Yeah, I've been actually the one who's been facilitating this through through Qualico on behalf of our community services department up until this point. And the understanding is that they actually wanted to get this done sooner. But of course, we asked that they could stall the contractor a few days so we could bring this to council, because it's important that you guys would give approval for this for the funding. And as well, they are on a time crunch with regards to this type of material and the type of and the weather and whatnot. So they needed to get it done. Not only that, but they do have another contractor coming in to do some other works up and around Qualico development with regards to cleaning up fencing that has fallen down and become dilapidated and different things like that. This park, they need to remove all the sand and the wood structure that was kind of a border around the park. They have to fix the fence at the park. There's big holes in the fence. It goes between the park and the residential. On the other side of it, there's a public utility that. As well, they did provide quotes to the town. They did reach out to, there's very few companies that can do this poured in place, which is our requirement under our design or standards that Councillor CAO Hanlon alluded to. So they did reach out and get some quotes, and yes, that was what the quotes came in at for the difference between wood chips is what they actually proposed to us and poured in place. So that the difference is what we're asking for tonight. And no, I can't say that we could negotiate any more than that. Like ICO Hanlon did say, they are donating this lot, which could be sold as a residential lot, which, you know, whatever that is on the market. So, and the equipment, we have done a inspection of the equipment on the tot lot, and it is all in excellent condition. So it's basically just the surface that needs to be replaced. And the town of Hinton has been, over all these years, they've been maintaining it, the park, and not realizing that it was actually not the town of Hinton's. It just kind of came into their inventory. So once they learned that, we did take down the signage, and we also did put up some fencing, snow fencing at the schools right now. Does that answer some of your questions?
Yeah, I'm just fixing the park. I'm just questioning the board in place. That's the same stuff. But I mean, I see parks that don't have board in place, and I played on parks that didn't have board in place, and it seemed to work out well.
I think that our standards now are requiring that. So any new parks will require that surfacing, unless there's some product out there on the market that could be equal to or better than. But they're trying to move away from the wood chips because they blow around the sand, same thing. And also it gets into the sand, disrupts the, you know, the mowers and stuff like that. And it just becomes more of a nuisance for the parks crew. And that's my understanding why they chose to go with this product.
Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I have a clarifying question regarding that. Hypothetically, if we don't support this, what will Qualico be putting in there?
this is why they're waiting to hear from us first thing in the
Okay.
morning.
So
Because they're open to putting the product in and then invoicing the municipality. If we phone them in the morning and say, no, council's not going to support this, then we will ask for better than wood chips, probably pea gravel.
Okay.
I don't know the cost difference on that, but that is what we've discussed.
perfect. Thank you for that clarification. So this is just to simply upgrade it, or we're going to get a lesser product that don't fit our standards if we don't pass this tonight. So thank you for that clarification. One other point of clarification on page 96, it speaks to Qualico is interested in donating the land. So any confirmation that this will actually have an agreement where the land is donated, or this is just still in progress?
Sir, through you to all the council, they continue to desire to donate this. So, and part of that would see a redistricting to our park district. And this would be entered into the town of Hinton's inventory of park spaces and for the benefit of the residents in that area.
Okay, thank you for that. Councilor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 2 or 3 questions for administration. This, is it a safety surface as in rubberized, or it is actually cement?
Thank you, Chair, through to Councillor Race. I'm not familiar with the product myself, but I understand it's like a rubberized type of product. Rubber type of product is what it is.
Something soft.
Yeah, so that's
Cement.
exposed concrete under the sand. So that's very dangerous, right? So the kind of this is supposed to be a silver product.
So you are saying that it's kind of rubberized?
Yes.
Good, because my little granddaughter was on the monkey bars, fell off in Hinton, ended up with a compound fracture of her humerus. So it's good that we're leaning towards or going towards a very safe surface. I just have 2 more, sir. Lighting, is lighting going to be part of this?
Actually, no, it wasn't. No, I don't think so. There's no. No, that wasn't part of it because it wasn't a requirement in the first place.
So yeah, just no. Councilor Race?
That's good. I
Yeah,
just wanted to
just
know
no.
if there would be lights in place for when it's dark out and the kids want to go there. One other thing, and maybe I'm getting this confused with something else. I had thought if a new subdivision went in or a new development, it was on them to put in a little playground or a park. And then a year or so later, the town would take that over as maintenance. Am I getting this confused with something else?
Typically, it is a requirement of the developer, and it was negotiated in their development agreement that they would be providing the park in phase 2. And that is why phase 1, it was their decision to put in this top lot part. And we actually agreed to it. And you're right, we did a temporary development permit for them to provide this park to the community. With lots of new young families and whatnot. And now the whole neighborhood is accustomed to having that little cat lot. And I think it's important that it's maintain it and keep it as opposed to taking it out. And typically the developer must put in a part of their development, depending on how many meters it is from like an existing park. That's under our design standards.
Okay. So I'll be very, very quick, sir. So this park, it'll be, kids, people in that area will have access to the park. People in Sunset or the mobile home park, they will also have access to this park.
It's a public park.
Oh,
Anybody
excellent.
can use
Excellent.
it. Correct.
Well, I just got to tell you, I will support this 100%. Love nothing more than seeing a bunch of kids happy and smiling and laughing. So I will support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Race. Council, any further debate, questions? Seeing none, I'll call to question. The council approved partnering with Qualico Communities to help remediate the playground located on Lupin Way to municipal standards with a contribution of $48,000 from the municipal reserve to partially fund a pour-in-place surfacing. Council, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Anything further for 7.7, Council? Councilor Hawes.
Yeah, just a quick question to kind of follow up with Councillor Taylor, the comment. the standards have changed, obviously, so I'm assuming, and I don't want to assume, so that's why I'm asking, that in the future, when some of our parks need to be revitalized, that this pour in place is going to be a common practice for our community now, once we have this new product down, that's what we're going to see in the future. Administration.
So thank you through you to Councillor Harris. Yes. And I would anticipate being the normal practice going forward is whatever rehabilitation as well as development occurs would be done according to our standards. Very difficult for municipalities to kind of ask developers to do one thing and then we do something else. So of course, going forward, it's a budget implication, but as we take a look and manage and improve our playgrounds, I would expect that this would be one of the elements we'd be taking a look at addressing with that work.
So if I may, I think this is actually a great opportunity because I'm again assuming, but the spray park currently has a rubberized surface, but it does not sound like it is like this surface that's being put in, and we've had some issues with that rubber in that area. So it'll be interesting to see, is it different or is it the same? Because I thought that it sounds to me different.
Sir, if I could, through you to Councillor Hawes, administration will have to get back to you on that to see if it is if it's a Chevy and a Ford, just exactly what the difference may be.
Okay, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you, administration. Councillor Hawes, Councillor Taylor.
Is this pour in place standard common in other communities? Or does it represent a platinum level of service that we're providing?
Sir, through you to Councillor Taylor, to all the council, it is the norm in the new parks I've seen in Spruce Grove, and it is some that we did pour in place in Stony Plain as well during my time there. I don't know. I can't honestly tell you the difference in cost. We did it primarily because when I was in Stony Plain, because the maintenance and the upkeep wasn't as dramatic. It stayed in place. It didn't blow away. It wasn't affected by wind or snow and rain nearly as much, and was felt to be safer.
Councillor Taylor, council, anything further for 7.7? Seeing that again, thank you, administration and council, that brings us to 7.8, collective bargaining agreement.
Thank you, sir. On page 180 of council's agenda package here this afternoon. Thrilled. This is a confirmation of the collective bargaining agreement with our membership at Unifor Local 855. Pleased to announce that on September 26th, the union membership voted 84% in favor of the offer from the town of Hinton, which was effectively from 2022 to 2026 contract, a rollover of the previous agreement, a 4-year agreement, 2% per year for the 4 years for 8% over 4. With that, the recommended action is simply that administration recommends that council accept the collective bargaining agreement for 2023 to 2026 with Unifor Local 855.
Thank you, ICO Hanlon. Council, any questions, directions? What would we like to do with this? Somebody in queue? Oh, Councillor Taylor.
I would like to go with that we recommend that you accept the recommended action. Administration.
On page 180, so that would be.
Administration recommends that council accept the agreement.
And would you like to speak to that, Councillor Taylor?
No, I think this is a good agreement in light of the times that we face.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, we have a motion on the floor. I have Councillor Magoon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I would like to echo some of those same comments. I think it's important and that we celebrate anytime we can achieve some labor stability, especially in some pretty harsh economic times for folks facing some pretty serious increases in terms of inflation and the cost of living. We're all aware that putting together these sorts of agreements, it's very time consuming. There's a lot of effort on all parties' parts. So I just want to express my thanks to everybody involved. And I look forward to having this successfully concluded.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'll be in favor of this and, same sentiments, but thank you to First Administration, to HR department who plays a vital role in all of this, and then to our contractor as well. So working together with the town of Hinton to reach this agreement. So, and thank you to the members of the Uniform 855, for 84% in agreement to it. So looking forward to, these 4 years and, and thank you for the 4 years as well. That's, I understand, is unusual. So I appreciate that. And it really sets up council too, that we're not doing negotiations when elections are on. So I really appreciate that too. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any further debate, questions? Seeing none, I'll call to question that administration recommends that council accept the collective bargaining agreement for 2023 through 2026 with Unifor Local 855. Councillor Taylor.
Is it administration recommends or council we have the wording right there.
Administration, yeah, well, that is the recommended action that you had asked for.
I'm just questioning the wording.
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm just
Yeah.
confused. I'm just
Sir,
asking to be unconfused.
sorry, if I could to Councillor Taylor, it's a good point. I would suggest that the first two words administration recommends is redundant and not required, and that it could read that council accept the collective bargaining agreement for 2023 to 2026 for Unifor Local 855. I apologize for the confusion.
Councillor Taylor, are you okay with that change?
Yeah, I apologize for putting that forward. I like the change that was just made.
Okay, council, we have an amended motion that says that council accept the collective bargaining agreement for 2022 through 2026 with Unifor Local 855. Council, any further debate or questions before I call this to question? Seeing none, call to question. All those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Council, anything further for 7.8? Councillor Taylor.
Just a few words for the public. Wage increases like this call for increases in potentially taxes coming up into the future. And that may call on council to make tough decisions on the budget coming up, in particular to some of the more premium level of services we're providing in some areas of the town. But also that the taxpayers should be prepared that there may be some tax increases coming up as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, anything further for 7.8? Seeing none, before we move on, are we good to go through our last three items, or should we call a recess? Anyone good to go? Okay, 7.9 community grants update, ICO Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. Page 184 of council's agenda package for this afternoon. This is the fall intake of the Hinton grant funding. This is the recommendations, coming from the Hinton Grant Funding Advisory Committee. It's the fall intake. As you do see on the table on page 185, the town was in receipt of initially 5 requests totaling $47,877. You do see the funding allocation recommended that came forward from the advisory committee. The membership is at the bottom of page 184. Going through the table, perhaps it's easiest. You do see an initial request for $25,000. The group recommendation is done, and you see the rating average at 0. I was embedded in this process, but my understanding is that if it's 0, it did not meet the requirements of the town's funding model. And the second item was the Bridges Society, the food donation station. The amount requested was $1,050. It rated very high, 98 and a quarter out of 100. The recommendation was for $1,050. The third item we do see there was rental support in the amount of $10,000. It was deemed not to have complied. And so the recommendation was not to have any funding for that. The Hinton Historical Society, the Collections Management Project, received a high rating of 95.25, seeking $3,300. The advisor committee is recommending for that to receive the full $3,300. And then the Royal Canadian Legion, the chair refurbishing project, they had requested $8,527. It received a rating average of 100, and the recommendation for $8,527. Typically, and it waits, and in my understanding from staff is between the spring and the fall intake of our grant program, we typically have about $30,000 each time, or approximately $60,000 per consideration, or per year, excuse me. So if you will, coming into the $30,000 this fall, we do see recommendations of awards of $12,877 as identified to the three agencies. Those agencies, again, the Bridges Society, the Hinton Historical Society, and the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 249. So with that, I'd be able to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. I see a hand with Councilor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. To administration, for the last 7-8 years, twice a year, we would have this presentation made by the committee, and I'm not seeing them here today. Could you speak to that, please?
So through you to Councilor Race, a little uncertain. It might have been an administrative oversight on our part. We have had our principal staff member involved with working with the committee has been off on extended leave. So this may have been just an oversight on our part when we get before council here this evening. I believe it's certainly worthwhile in the future to return to that model.
I would like to make a motion, sir. That council approves funding recommendation provided to them by the Hinton Grant Funding Advisory Committee for the fall 2022 intake period, and direct administration to release $1,050 to Bridges Society, $3,300 to Hinton Historical Society, and $8,527 to the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 249. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilor Race. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Any debate? Councilor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question, Councilor Race. I was wondering the same thing, but realizing that, yeah, that staff member is gone. I would have been interested to ask the question because I'm interested in that first request there on the list, because I've done an internet search and I've never heard of that before ever in our community, and it's not even on the internet. So I'm interested what that first foundation and how it came about. But anyway, I want to thank the committee for, again, not an easy job to go through all of this, and so all those that contributed to it, and I'll be in support of the recommendations made by the committee. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Haas. Council, any further debate or questions? Councilor Race.
Thank you, sir. To administration, I'm also interested in that first applicant for $25,000. That's a Hinton nonprofit.
Sir, if I may, through you to Councilor Race, Council, I would appreciate an opportunity to just discuss a bit with my team, and I'll update all of council after tonight's meeting with an email update.
Thank you, Councilor Race. Thank you, administration, for that. Councilor, question. Then, that's our council approved recommendations provided advisory committee for the fall of 2022 intake period, and direct administration to release $1,050 to the Bridges Society, $3,300 to the Hinton Historical Society, and $8,527 to the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 249. Council, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Council, anything else for 7.9? Councilor Taylor.
Never thank the volunteers who help on these committees strongly enough in my mind. So is it possible that administration or the mayor get together to thank each one of these people with perhaps a letter that says thank you for your contribution to this work? However you decide is appropriate would be fine. I think just individually thanking them is an effort that is going to be rewarded in their continual help and participation and wanting to help us because they know we recognize them.
Administration?
Sir, through you to Councillor Taylor, administration thinks that's a great idea and we can take the lead with your direction and we don't need a motion, but we can undertake that. The volunteers are certainly very critical to the support and the success of ventures such as this.
Thank you, administration. Councillor Taylor, anything? Thank you. Seeing no one else, thank you, administration and council. That brings us to 7.10 Tactical Plan 2022 to 2026. IC O'Hanlon.
Mr. Chair, Mayor, if it's possible, could administration request a 7-minute?
Okay, we'll have a 7-minute recess and reconvene at 5:43. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'd like to reconvene this meeting at 5:45. And with that, we are on 7.10 Tactical Plan 2022 through 2026. IC O'Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. Starting on page 187 of today's agenda package. This is the administrative response to Council's Strategic Plan 2022 to 2025. I do want to thank my team for helping me pull the tactical plan together. And what we have done here is we've tried to, and again, my apologies if sir, if you wish, you may want to take a look at this. So in the attachment, essentially, we took a look at strategic priority economic development, and you see the corresponding 11 subpoints for that. Strategic priority number 2, which was the community services priority, and there was 4 subsections for that. The organizational effectiveness on again with 5 there, and the last page is the infrastructure strategic priority with 3 items there. Each of those has then some proposed tactics on how we would move this forward. What we tried to do is we tried to identify, in fairness, much of this was me, but the team put their information in here. And what I saw is emerging, and in the first page, you can see it there. Some of what you see in the light blue were initiatives we realized were regularly occurring or occurring all the time. So the light blue is intended, as I indicate there, to indicate ongoing or regularly occurring work and initiatives that we should be doing. The dark blue indicated a project. So something was project-based one time, be it a quarter or an entire year or a year and a half that it would come through. So as we go through it on the first page, you'll see, I won't go line by line, sir, but perhaps just to give you an idea. So strategic priority economic development, 1.1 in that was that the town develops a clear understanding of barriers to development and works to remove barriers. When you get below that yellow level, you get into administration's tactical response. So what we're suggesting, so 1.1.1, for instance, would be hold workshop to identify barriers and where the town can reduce red tape. You see the lead department here being development services. At the same time, we identify every second year. And then in the budget area, as I mentioned in the lead sheet, there's really 3 items. One is that it's either in budget, it's to be determined, or we believe or already recognize that there would be budget required. So for instance, 1.1.1, we are indicating that budget would be required so that we could, and it might be, when I was in Stony Plain, we would meet quarterly actually with the industry, and we'd held a breakfast. So the cost would be the cost of the breakfast, a bit of overtime to bring staff in for a breakfast meeting. Typically when we meet with some of our key stakeholders, they're not going to come to the office at 10:30 in the morning. They're going to come early in the morning or the evening if we can get them. So that's what we tried to identify here is and we tried to reasonably place it in 2023 through 2026 and not overload everything and fail to perform, fail to deliver. So as we go through this, I'm not quite sure, sir, if you want to go through this page by page or how we'd like to proceed.
Unless there's a strong recommendation from administration, we can find it high level and open it up to council, and if it goes down that way, then so be it. And first, so it's fairly clear, we realized economic development was a priority through the strategic planning process. And you do see here that it's certainly generated a tremendous number of initiatives, of tactics that we'd be taking a look at here. There is just trying to think how best to take a look at this. So on page 1, so there's 10 pages here that I've circulated to council. So on page 1, you see a number of ongoing or regularly occurring, and maybe that's the light blue. Maybe taking a moment here at the dark blue, you'll see 1.1.5. We believe we should create a level of customer service directive. And so we're proposing that that could be completed in the last quarter of 2024. 1.1.7 was another project where we believe we could incorporate fire smart principles into development standards and reviews, that could start here in 2023 and become part of that process. And then 1.1 or 1.1.10, the bottom of that page, you do see corporate services to complete a review of all the bylaws. And we believe that could be completed in 2024 into 2025. Part of bringing this to council here is to try and get some confirmation from council in terms of the timing, if we've got it right, if council would like some of these things earlier, some of these other things later. What we've tried to do is many of these tactics tend to build one upon the other. So what we've tried to do is ensure that a tactic that requires another tactic be done first. Of course, we do those in sequential order, so we're not putting, so to speak, the cart before the horse. Page 2, you get into the second initiative, which is town explores land acquisition to expand commercial and industrial economic opportunities. So for instance, here you see a fair number of, actually mostly these are project based, of the 7 that you see here. So we believe and at council direction, establish relationships with Yellowhead County and the province, pursuing annexation opportunities. We see that starting up right away in 2023. Again, working with Yellowhead County on a joint application for the province for crown land acquisition. And again, we believe that builds kind of sequentially on the earlier item in that in that tactic, earlier tactic. Develop a land acquisition reserve. Again, we believe that as you build on the others, that might be something for 2024. We do need to see prepare an inventory of developable land. There is a 2017 inventory. Excuse me, that's 1.2.4. So we would like to update that and bring that back to council and keep that regularly updated. You do see the maintained developable land inventory on a regular basis. So we believe, again, beginning of each year, that should be reviewed and updated to make sure it continues to reflect available lands. Again, pursue opportunities to obtain crown lands. This was a specific request of council within the town boundaries. So not necessarily annexation of additional crown lands outside of the current annexation boundaries. This was a request of council for lands within the annex boundaries and how we might get those out of crown control. And so that's something we believe that would take time, but that could be initiated here early in 2023. We also believe that there's the need for a brownfield and infield property strategy. And we have that tentatively identified into 2024, 2025.
I see, O'Hanlon, if it's okay, I think there's an appetite from council to perhaps focus on certain areas instead of going through the entire thing. And then just A, for you not to repeat yourself, and B, to maybe dive in a little bit deeper on a few of the areas instead of overseeing everything, if that's okay.
That's quite all right.
Perfect.
Maybe if I could, and I'll pull back out of the document a bit. On that second page, 1.3, we see the town works to attract development to vacant lands, and you do see 6 tactics identified there.
So what I'll do is I'll open it up, if it's okay with administration, to council. I have almost, well, everyone in the queue. And then we'll go through that and kind of attack it that way. Councillor Magoon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm actually going to start by making the motion that council accepts the attached tactical plan 2022 through 2026 as information. And just more specifically, you know what, it'd be my recommendation that if it's the desire of council to explore it in any kind of depth, a standing committee would probably be better, but there's nothing that also stops us from doing it there either. So I wanted to throw and see what sort of feel council had at this point. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. Council, we have a motion on the floor, and I will go to Councillor Haas.
Great. Yeah, I wouldn't object to that. I support the motion. I guess for me, I want to have a little understanding on a couple of them, why so far out. In particular, the 1.1.4. And I appreciate the fact that you explained that some come, I'm assuming, and again, I'm not going to assume, but create a level of customer service directive is in 2024 to accomplish that. And then 2025 is provide some customer service training. But I'm just curious on why so far out for 2025. I see the budget is required, but you know, we talked a lot about that customer service in our community, you know, and that seems like it's pushing it out quite a ways to the end of our term. So I guess I'm just curious on the facts and that. Administration?
Thank you. So to Councillor Haas, so that's 1.1.4. And it actually, what we found was it aligned, and this might be our own doing, but if you take a look at 1.5.1,
okay,
you'll see where we talk about collaborate with customers to develop a can-do culture, improving customer service and satisfaction. And McKee and I are feeling that, and maybe 1.5.1 is a better example of what we'd like to do. This is one where we believe that annually we're coming together and we're reinforcing customer service with all of our teams. Okay. And we feel that the beginning of the year, or excuse me, yeah, so somewhere at the beginning or end of each year, we're covering this with our teams, and we have money in the budget actually to do it. So maybe that's a better example, and perhaps the timing. I'm trying to see this create a level. Excuse me, so the provide customer service training for all staff. I think the two are really quite connected, and possibly one's redundant over the other.
Okay. Nope, that's fair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Race.
Thank you, sir, very much. I want to circle back to page 190 of 222, 1.1.5. Can you tell me what does that involve? And that's that create a level of customer service directive.
So a customer service directive would be something that would be undertaken with administration jointly with council on what residents, businesses, stakeholders should expect from the town of Hinton when it comes to customer service. So an example could be, how quickly should they expect a response to an email? How quickly should they expect a return phone call? How quickly should they expect when they submit something to Hinton Voice or some of the other processes? So that's one aspect of it. The directive also is inward focused in terms of building up and improving the culture and the morale of our organization from a customer service perspective, what our directive and what our commitments are around customer service. But there would be something done jointly between administration and council.
So Mike, if I could, sir, please. My concern is that's the third quarter of 2024. What do we have in place right now to ensure that we're giving that good?
And again, if I could, sir, through you to Councillor Race, this can be moved around. I think our concern is, and when I first kind of went to the directors and the managers, everything kind of got dropped in the first 2 years, and I just knew it would not get completed. This was a lot of work, and so we worked to kind of pull it out a little further. I don't disagree, and this is one actually before she left on vacation, McKee and I were talking about it, and this is one that may have to come up earlier, simply so as we really
initiate the customer service training, what are we aiming at? What are we aiming for? What are we trying to achieve? So 1.1.5 may need to move up sooner into the queue.
And I just want to speak to the motion if I could. I will support the motion. I truly will. However, we paid really good money to have this strategic plan done. We met with some really good people to have them do it. I don't want to see this once and not see it again. And I need to have a really good understanding of each one of these elements in here. So how we do that, I don't know. But
Sorry, there's sir.
No, absolutely. Go ahead.
Through you to Councillor Race, you'll see actually, and I've left the column quite narrow, but the KPI is your key performance indicators. So administratively, we need to be reporting back regularly to council, and we need to be identifying how we have been successful, or if I can be candid, how we've failed at certain initiatives and how we intend to address those failures. And so this needs to be, we always talk about living documents, and I apologize because I think the term gets a little used, but this should be a document where initiatives are satisfied and pursued and maintained, and we're successful, and hopefully we're mostly successful. If we fail, we address the failure and keep moving forward, and we keep adding things to this document as we move forward. And we need to be regularly reporting back to council where we're at with this tactical. This tactical plan needs to in some way inform any of our budget requests to council, so that when we're coming back to council, we can say, you know, from the strategic plan, we identified a tactic or tactics, and some we've been able to do with existing budget or within existing resources, and some of the others we're going to identify that we need some we may need some budget assistance to make it happen.
good. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. And just specifically, the reoccurrence of this is under section 3.2.3. We meet quarterly in Q3 to do this. So that will be our opportunity to revisit this. So this is something we've already agreed upon. And again, this is about perhaps moving forward certain things, and if not, but that's I think the objective of today. Councillor Taylor.
Question, but first to comment on something previous. I agree with Councillor Race. I don't think we have to wait till third quarter of 2024 to tell somebody that they should turn a phone call from a taxpayer promptly. So I think some of this we could do earlier than later. My question is, happy to accept this plan. I'm assuming that anything that requires at least a significant budget more than a workshop would be coming back to council for a decision.
Sir, through you to Councillor Taylor, yes. Again, as I mentioned earlier, this should be informing our OBCs coming to council. If we need budgets, we should be bringing that to council here shortly.
Perfect, thanks.
And I do want to clarify to Councillor Taylor's comments. Even if 1.1.5 is in 2024, obviously there are other things that are being done. So it's not like we'll have no customer service here at the town of Hinton. So comments like that are somewhat disparaging in the sense that it does not mean we are not focusing, I believe, from administration to do any of this. So just my personal thoughts on that comment, that customer service will continue, and an added addition to it in Q3 of 2024 will add to that. Councillor Taylor.
I was merely trying to clarify that there could be interim work that could be done on this sooner than a more complex sustained effort that was done later. So we could have earlier standards that are done perhaps quicker that could be done. That was the intent of my comment. It was not meant to disparage anybody.
Okay, thank you for that clarification, Councillor Taylor.
Understood. Thank you.
Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. You know, again, this is a process that, you know, we've never entertained before, from the strategic plan to this tactic to document. And I agree with Mayor Michaels. You know, we've already established that we're going to meet with our senior leadership team, our directors, managers on a quarter or on a regular basis. That's a perfect opportunity to update on these KPIs and how we're working with it and stuff. So again, I'm fully I don't necessarily need to go personally through every line. I see that a lot of thought has been put into this. It's captured everything in our strategic plan. And I appreciate the living document comment, but that is what it is, and things can move around. So part of that is you questioning that, because I think, we're going to have those conversations later, and things are happening in the background already to work on these things. Again, I think that honestly, I'm of the mind, and I can let the rest of the council, but to move forward with this motion, and if we have any other further questions, then it's an opportunity to do it maybe in a committee of the whole meeting at a later date. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Council, anything further before I call this to question? Seeing none, I'll call for question. That council accepts the attached tactical plan 2022 through 2026 as information. Council, all those in favor? That's carried unanimously. Councillor Taylor? Okay, perfect. That is carried unanimously. Council, anything further for 7.10? Seeing none again. I see O'Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. With council's motion here tonight, and I do appreciate that, this will be shared with our leadership team and will be utilized in some fashion and form to be informing our budget going forward for 2023 and on. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you for that. Council, again, any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Administration. Council brings us to our last action item for this evening, Regional Waste Management Authority, IC O'Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. I am on page 209 of council's package this afternoon, the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Authority. This is for the inclusion of the MD of Greenview into the authority. There is a recommended action. This does come out of the most recent meeting of the West Yellowhead Regional Waste Management Authority. I would like to read that, if that's okay, sir, into the record. The recommended action is that the town of Hinton, as a member of the WMA, approves the admission of the MD of Greenview to the authority, subject to the following 4 conditions: that the MD of Greenview representatives participate in WMA board upon signing the agreement, with voting rights added upon commission creation or within 1 year of signing, whichever happens sooner. Second, that a one-time fee of $270,000 be paid by the MD of Greenview to the commission in 2022. Third, that the MD of Greenview pay a waste disposal fee of $4 a ton for the first 4,650 tons of waste hauled from Grand Cache following when they sign the agreement to join the authority or commission, and that the mean voting percentage for each municipality will change to 20% with the admittance of the MD of Greenview. So I believe this is consistent with the most recent meeting of the authority, and certainly open for any questions or direction of council at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, IC O'Hanlon. Council, any questions, directions? What, Councillor Taylor?
I would like to move that council accept all that as written. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Council, we have a motion on the floor. Councillor Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll be in favor of this, speaking in favor of it. As a member of the committee, we had a long conversation about this, and it was decided that it was best for the organization adding another person or another municipality to it. Gives us more opportunities for advocation, when it comes to maybe building a new landfill. There was a lot of advantages to it. Sure, there was some things shared that maybe might be that disadvantage, but they far outweighed the advantage, or did not outweigh the advantages. So I'll be in favor of this and welcome him to part of the group. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hawes. Councillor Taylor.
Would I ask a clarifying question to Councillor Hawes? Is there a plan to build a new landfill? I thought our landfill had a 70-year life history left on it, and you just said we were going to potentially build a new landfill.
Councillor Hawes, did you want to respond?
It just looking into the future. It's not we're doing, but it's, you know, we're just in the future or any expansions of it or whatever, having another person at the table or another, I should say, municipality at the table. So no, there's no plans to build right now, but eventually in the future we will. And this is another party that's got skin in the game and will help to advocate for those when the time comes. So. Thank you, Councilor Taylor. Council, we have a motion on the floor.
I'll be speaking in favor of this. At the MDA of Greenview, we partner with them on many levels, Evergreens Foundation, Community Futures. They're a well-run municipality or division. And we have a challenge for waste reduction. So it might be counterintuitive to add someone, but that garbage has to go somewhere. And to have a partner who comes to the table to work together, who's in financially great standing, that we can tackle this waste reduction issue that all municipalities face was part of the logic. And as Councillor Haas says, in the future, all landfills have an expiry date, and to have another partner at the table to regionally to tackle that when that time comes is, I think, prudent to do. So I look forward to partnering with them as we added Jasper a few years ago and our other two partners. I believe this is a step in the right direction, and to deal with a topic that's quite challenging. And I look forward to supporting this. Thank you. Council, anything further before I call this to question? Seeing none, because of the length, I'll just simply ask to call to question the recommended action. Council, all those in favor? That's passed unanimously. Council, anything else for 7.11? Seeing none. Again, thank you, administration and council. That brings us to our notice of motion, section 222, administration.
Thank you, sir. We are on page 222 at 222 in the agenda packet. With that, we do have a single notice of motion. This is item 8. And that was from Councilor Taylor, and I will bring to speak to it. So, yeah, the notice of motion is that information on the financial sustainability of the town of Hinton's current RCMP service be requested and analyzed by town administration. So that's what we would discuss at the next regular meeting. I sent you all a detailed information sheet. You've got like the Reader's Digest version here. If anybody'd like the more detailed sheet, including the press, I'd be more than happy to send it to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. And administration, there is nothing for us to do in order for this to continue.
There is not. I just, if I could, sir, I'd like to speak. Did have a chance to speak with and administration requested time to pull this information together. This would involve the head office of the RCMP, and in order to bring all of the information we believe that council would be looking for, and I apologize if I heard Councillor Taylor incorrectly. I heard next meeting. This will take a lot of time for us to pull something together. I will share that the Director of Protective Services has asked for the middle of 2023.
So, point of clarification, this is just the notice, and then this will come back exactly, and then yeah. So there's no report or anything for tonight. Was my understanding.
Sorry about that.
Councillor Taylor, was that your?
What I was going to say, this is just to come back to see if council wants to do this, right?
Okay.
Sorry, that is correct.
No worries. Thank you, administration and council. Moving on to our report, and beginning to my left, Councillor Mmiwg.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Nothing to report other than to express my appreciation to the Hinton Rotary Club for putting on an absolutely fantastic Oktoberfest. It was amazing, very well attended, and you know that it's going to a good place. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Magoon. I have Councillor Haas.
Yeah, I got a few things actually, and I agree, Councillor Magoon. Oktoberfest was great, great band. The live music was really fantastic. Food was great. Everything, people really were enjoying themselves, and thank you to the organizations that sponsored that, and and also to one, I think in particular, I appreciate the fact the safe drivers home, it was really important. So that was great. Library meeting, had one last night. Was our introduction to the budget that council will be being presented to, I think on October 18th or something like that. I think, definitely got hats off to Shannon, our new manager. This was her first budget, and she, I believe, was very nervous about it, but did an excellent job of it. So I'm really excited. A couple of highlights that I wanted to mention going into that conversation. When you see the numbers and see the package, one of the things, this is the last year that the reserve contribution that we're going to make to the operational budget. So it allotted, I think it was for 3 or 4 years, $60,000. So this is the last of the $60,000 this year, and then the next years will not have that. We did do a different thing too with the budget this year. We had to break out of the operational budgets the archives alone. So what does it cost the town of Hinton to provide the archives in our community? So that came at a number about close to $50,000 with time and everything. A lot of it is staffing. We also had a conversation last night too about seeking, which we've never done before, and we talked about seeking possible grants to run that program instead of the staff, Shannon, she's going to be utilizing some training from the representative that did our service level review. We've contracted with her to do, and she's going to speak to her and her thoughts on that and get some direction on that, because we did look up the archives and there is some granting opportunities there. So we've never seeked that before, but we would like to look at that for the future years, even this year, depending on the circumstance. I can wait. I got some questions for our ICO, but I can wait till you're reporting to ask the question, Mayor Michaels, if that's more appropriate. Okay. All right. I will wait. That's all I have to report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. Councillor Taylor.
Oh, sorry. I pressed that by mistake. Purely an accident.
You are good now.
So it won't happen again. Oh, I'm supposed to speak?
Yeah.
Oh.
There we go.
Fortuitous. I went to the PAR 99 presentation and thought they put on a solid effort. And I was there for about an hour and a half, got a chance to speak to most of the prime movers in the PAR 29 thing. So I came away with a good feeling. I was just wondering if it was to the town's benefit to talk to the president of the golf club to get any sort of feedback from them on whether any further communication regarding this project should go out from the town, whether they got messages, whether all their members got messages that were clear, from who's responsible to what, and who controls the golf course, how many holes are covered, who's responsible for what, status of the sale. Is that all clear from the public input? Best way to figure that out from the golf course might be to talk to the president. That was just my humble suggestion, having talked to a couple of members that were there. That was only 2 of them, right?
Is administration, do you understand the question, or?
I believe I do, sir. And if I could respectfully, we are certainly open to speak to any of the members of the board of the golf course board, to the president or whomever. I've been contacted a number of times and frankly have had demands that I share information that I can't share. And so, and it's been numerous times, they just keep coming back. So unfortunately at this time, until the conditional sale closes, much of the information they are seeking cannot and will not be shared by the town of Hinton. It would be inappropriate to be a violation of the contract. I have indicated that once it sells, assuming that the conditions are met and it sells, that the land transfers, then the answers can be given. And I appreciate the frustration of some of the members, but unfortunately, beyond that, we can't share. I would encourage members of the community and members of the Golf Society to stay involved with all of the open houses and the public hearings associated with this project as it goes forward. And they will continue to get more information as it's released from the project.
Thank you. Thank you, Taylor. Information on the status of the sale, the number of holes covered, and who's going to control the golf course in the future. That's all proprietary. Is that what you just said?
So, perhaps just if I could, sir, I'm going to ask Debbie, who's been involved with this, or Winston, on what we believe we can share, because proprietary, the golf course remains the town of Hinton. If I could, I'm going to ask Debbie to just share with us what we can share on the hole or holes that will be changed or affected.
Yes, thank you through the chair to all of council. So in terms of the agreement, until some of those conditions come off, we can't release information specific to the agreement. So the questions that we've received are purchase price, area, how many hectares, what's covered, what's not, etc. So some of those details we're not able to release at this time for competitive reasons, according to the MGA. The other questions that were received were just general questions from golfers. I know the conversations that I had, I referred them back to the Golf Society president, who had seen a preliminary concept, and a lot of the things that they had questions about was discussed at that point. They were unable to share that information with the general populace at that time. So the other thing that we do know is that Part 999 is going to be collecting a lot of the questions that they had, and they will be putting out their own Q&A. In response to some of the questions that they heard very prominently and some of the trends that they heard.
I also attended the Golf Society meeting. And the meeting that I was at, discussing budgeting. I think they were thinking somewhere in the 75 to 85 if they were thinking of extra part-time staff versus 55 if they go the way it is. So that was sort of the general nature. And the other thing they were talking about, and I think this might be related to the money they got from us, and that's hiring somebody to go through an archival person to go through Tom Peterson's papers. So to make those papers accessible for people in an archival form. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Race.
Sorry, just a follow-up question, Mr. Mayor.
Absolutely. Well,
Sorry, Councillor Taylor, did you say you attended the Historical Society meeting or the Golf Society meeting?
Did I say golf?
Yeah.
Oh, I meant historical.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No, it makes sense.
Sorry
for that clarification. Councillor Race.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So on September 28th, I attended the Bliss Hotels and Resorts open house. I found the people very, very engaged. They wanted information. I spent some time with many golfers who also had plenty of questions. I would like to sincerely thank Debbie Weber and Winston Russo, who stepped in several times to assist me with responses to those questions. And then on September 29th, as Deputy Mayor, I attended the grand opening of the second air quality monitoring station in Hinton, and that one is located on Seabolt Drive. I wish Mindy was still here. These people would like to express their sincere thanks and appreciation to Mindy and all the work and help that she provided in that project. They spoke so highly of them. I really wish she was here to hear them. And September 29th, there's truth and reconciliation at the Hinton Friendship Center. There's the trailer. The president of the Hinton Friendship Center, and that would be Morgan Roberts. That lady made a point of making sure that people had ate, made sure that people had water, that the drummers had water. She made sure that people were welcomed and felt very, very comfortable. And I really, really appreciated that. So thank you, Morgan, a million for doing that. And to the Friendship Center for putting on that event. Last night we had our ASH meeting, and at that meeting, there was a big discussion on budget and also the work that they're doing on their appropriation funding. Just want to tell everybody that the Safe Walk is still available Tuesday and Thursday at the Guild, and movies are being offered through the movies every weekend. Today, I got to attend the grand opening of the putting green at Pine Valley, and that was extremely exciting. There were 3 people initially trying to putt a ball into this little hole. One of those 3 people was the mayor. And I just gotta say, he wasn't even close. The lady who got that little ball in that hole,
Point of order.
just an excellent putter. And and that's just about it. I had a busy week and a half. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Race. Councillor Race's determination of not even close is very inaccurate. There's 3 to 4 inches to the left. It was,
Point of information.
Mhm.
The lady who beat you, she's legally blind.
Correct. Okay, moving on, council. Great event. Thank you for those who were able to join me there. And again, it's just a testament to what's been done at Pine Valley. Pickleball courts this coming Thursday will be the grand opening for that. It's just really taking Pine Valley to the next level and making sure that the people who deserve it the most in the later years in life and sure that for them to enjoy their time in such a beautiful village. Thank you, and the councillors for that. And then committees for myself, and we had the opportunity to attend the Other Forest Products Association conference. I was invited by West Fraser. Most of the discussion was centered towards lobbying efforts. West Fraser, albeit in a good position, do have, whether it's pine beetle, caribou, rail issues, and the focus, as I said, was how do we better lobby and work with other agencies in our province to make sure that the forestry industry continues to thrive and reduce the red tape and make sure that what's needed in order to distribute some of the best lumber and pulp in Canada to other parts of the world, including the United States. So it was a great day and a half for myself. So I thank West Fraser, and obviously communicated to them that council and administration are always here to work side by side with them in their endeavors to make sure that their products are successful. So it was, again, thank you to West Fraser. And for that, that's all for myself. And that will bring us to our Chief Administrative Officer reporting, ICO Hanlon.
Thank you, sir. Really nothing to report at this time. It had been a busy couple of weeks and transitioning somewhat as I prepare for the onboarding of the permanent CAO, and looking forward to that. And so preparing though the aspect of that week, and not too much, sir. I do appreciate that Councillor Haas had some questions for me.
Perfect. Thank you, ICO Hanlon. And with that, Councillor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just curious, and I don't want to speak too much to that, but you sent an email regarding the award. Are we able to speak to that in public or not?
So, sir, it is we're very excited about it. It's a national award. The cat, whatever bag, sorry, whatever analogy we want to use. We were told not to release it, but then Alberta municipalities released it. Oh. And so that's what So to Councillor Race bringing that forward. So we did get the Bronze Award in Canada for the work we're doing around the psychologically safe workplace. I've been very thrilled to be involved with that, and Angela and the Health and Safety Committee have taken a strong lead in that. So we were awarded the bronze in that, and very thrilled to be able to share that provincially with our colleagues with Alberta municipalities.
So if I may, yeah, no, I think it's definitely, a feather in our cap to get a bronze award, and a lot of work has been done on that over the last year or 2 years. So excellent work to the administration to achieve that. So I do have a couple of more if I may. One is, and I, this is a email or agenda prep, but service level review, when might we expect something coming down the pipe before you leave? Is it going to be, but any updates on that, administration?
Thank you, sir. Through you, Councillor Haas. I will follow up again with our contractor and ask for a firm date. It's been a bit of a struggle. They are working very hard. They're continuing to get information from us, but it is not lost that this is critical for the 2023 budget prep. So
excellent. Thank you. Just one more thing. And this is just a community thing, but and I know I talked to one staff member about this, but what is the plans for our rock snake, Hinton rock snake? Because it's been growing. I walk by it every single day, and I catch people putting stuff there, and it's growing. And I'm just curious. I know it was a community member that started it, but this is something that is unique, and I don't want to see the snow fly and the rocks are still there, and stuff. So is there any plans for the town to assist? Because I don't expect a community member to come and gather all those rocks, but is there any possibility the town could assist in that and maybe continue it on from future?
It's been a great community event.
I believe Fuchsia's got some comments here as well. So our intent would be to try and do something before the snow flies. I can say personally, I know the people came from Spruce Grove. I understand that kind of started this. The Spruce Grove snake has fallen on hard times recently. I walked by it last weekend. I almost stopped to kind of reconstruct the snake. So I believe, Fuchsia, did you have something you wanted to share with council on this matter? Yeah, please.
So I've been in contact with the organizer of the rock snake, and she is going to be posting to ask people to come and collect their personal rocks, and the ones that are left over are going to be put into the tree line along there, so that doesn't interfere with snow removal or grass cutting next year.
Awesome. Okay. That's excellent. And I want to also just thank to the community to respecting the rock snake. I walk, like I said, I walk my dog past it every day, and people see it, but it has not been disturbed. And I really appreciate that, the community, and respecting an initiative like that. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Haas. With that, that'll bring us to our adjournment. Council. Councillor Mmiwg?
I'd like to move that we adjourn, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, thank you, Councillor Mmiwg. Council, we have a motion on the floor. All those in favor? Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.